Hello folks, I am back with my shooting review of my MPX, and lately I've been getting into the pistol caliber carbines, or the kind of like machine pistol type firearms lately. And this firearm is really a great shooter. I mean, the funny thing is, I got the MPX Copperhead first, and ended up, because of that, it became a gateway for me to get the regular MPX. And it's usually the other way around. You know, people usually go from the newer one being the bigger to the smaller. But this is a really good firearm. I'm really having fun with this. Um, the other thing about this firearm, it's in my previous video, I mentioned that this is the newest iteration of the MPX. This is of the 2019 version, and it does share a lot of things from the Copperhead. Basically, the things that they share from the Copperhead is basically the new brace that they have here. And I'm going to try to get that up with one hand, and oh, there we go. All right, the new brace that they have on here, they start off with like a thin attachment here, and this particular brace. And this particular brace kind of like swivels. The reason why it swivels, I'm going to mention that again for those who didn't see the first one. It swivels because it enables you to put your arm inside, and if you want to fire the firearm, most people have the rigid brace where it's kind of like uncomfortable. It just holds the firearm in one position, and you can be a little bit uncomfortable. But however, with this particular brace, because it does swivel, it will work a little better for a person that wants to move their arm in a different position. Now, some people who are going to shoulder this, they are going to probably feel as though that is not stable because it swivels. But I beg to differ, because I shouldered it, I cheeked it, and I held it out straight. And I think what it does is it adapts to your body, whether you're putting it in like what they call the chest sternum area or your shoulder, to be able to move in a comfortable position so you can shoot. One of the other things is this particular variant of the MPX has the grip here, and everybody looks at this grip as kind of strange, and this grip is the same grip that's on the Copperhead. This grip is designed, from what Sauer says, for quick deployment. You're supposed to be able to grip this, pull this out real quick out of a bag, and pop open your brace, and it will. It's supposed to work that way. And I can understand the logic, and I can understand why some people would not be happy with that, but it is what it is. It's a funny thing, I went to the range and I was zeroing the Romeo 5 in, but I did not at the time have the Imbus Pro sights here, the Magpul Imbus Pro sights, and I did not have those at the time of doing my little testing. But as soon as I got home, it was in my door, courtesy of Amazon. So they just arrived. I'd not got a chance to, check it out as far as co-witness. But from what I've seen by turning the dot on and checking at the front sight, it seems like everything is pretty much lined up. Also, I use these particular sights on my Daniel Defense DDM 4 7P. So I'm about to test those out again with the Romeo 5 sight as well. So I will be doing that shortly. Just so you know, folks, this firearm is not loaded. This is here just for aesthetics. As you see, empty magazine, and I'm not going to be able to reach around my camera, but as you see, the dust cover is closed on this end. I really, when I was looking for this particular looking for the MPX, I was actually looking for the version with the Timney trigger. And the Timney trigger, for those who don't know, the Timney trigger is a flat trigger. It's really flat. It's a flat trigger that is fast shooting. And I just particularly got this particular one here. The flat trigger, and because Lena Michalak, which is Jerry Michalak's daughter, she's on Team Sauer, she put in her input about the trigger and also about the length of the barrel as far as the cover. I can't think of the cover at this time. So the cover for the barrel. So she put in a lot of input. So I really wanted that Timney trigger, but was unable to get this. This particular firearm, at first, I thought I had the wrong one because this is a 9mm. They came out with the Rattler canebrake. Now, the Rattler canebrake is it comes in, I believe, 5.56, 223, and 300 blackout. I think its main caliber is 300 blackout. So when you look at that, it has the exact same features here with the grip and with the way this is designed here, as well as the arm brace here. Got a little tongue tied. And the canebrake also has this black area here, and then it has the same features here. And funny thing, like I said in my previous video, SIG always brings out a different particular firearm, and they pretty much don't stay standard. Sometimes there were some things on limited release or short release, and that's what they tend to do. Okay, I'm going to get into roughly about the recoil. The recoil on this firearm is very minimal at best. I mean, you don't really notice the recoil. The recoil also, believe it or not, on the Copperhead, it's barely noticeable. And that's due to, and I'm not going to take this apart, I took it apart in another video, but that's due to the dual recoil springs in here, as well as there's a very short buffer tube, if you want to call it that, or I like to call it a buffer stop. But that's the reason why it's so, the recoil is just pretty much muted, if there's any. It also has to do with the gas system. It's a gas piston short stroke in there. It's a short gas piston system that's inside here. So that changes a lot when it comes to recoil. And I've always been fascinated at how this system is worked out, because they had to make the system a little different, because this is most of the internals are similar to an AR-15. And I went over before about the trigger pack that can be changed, but you have to use very big caution. Contact SIG about that. That's what you would have to do. Mentioned before, there are ambidextrous controls. You have your charging thing here. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, but you're having where you charge your bolt release here. It's ambidextrous there. Your bolt lock right here. And also on this side, this is also a bolt release, but it's not a bolt lock on this side. And of course, there's your traditional magazine release, as well as your ambidextrous safeties. Now, like I mentioned before, when it comes to the when it cycles back as far as recoil, you do not feel this safety here. And that's been a concern with people, especially people that had the CZ Scorpion. And I attribute that to that with the gas system that they have in here. So I think that's part of the reason why you're not feeling anything here. And plus, it's so minimal. It's not like the CZ where people were getting irritated. I fired 200 rounds on 2 different sessions, and I've never had a problem with that. So I'm not switching it out. I didn't feel anything. And in the future video, I am going to compare the MPXs with the CZ Scorpion. There is a minor difference, and I'm going to bring that out in another video probably tomorrow. But it's a minor difference on the way they shoot. But I'm going to tell you right now, whether it's the CZ Scorpion, whether it's the MPX or the Copperhead, you are going to shoot very accurate with all 3 of these firearms. You're going to tack drive on all of these firearms, and that's where the plus comes in with this particular platform. And this is one of the reasons why I got into this particular platform. Especially one of the reasons was people are saying that you got the Copperhead. Why did you get this? And it's because one of the reasons was I wanted to have a full-length 8-inch barrel. And this 8-inch barrel helps like for anything. My range is kind of small, but you can easily do 50 yards to 100 yards with this firearm and be pretty dead accurate, especially for those people who like to shoot steel. Another thing is, this is one with this system that it's made. For those of you who are into suppressors, this is very good for setting up a suppressor. I'm not into suppressors, but those people that are, it would be a very good system for that. Also, you can change this to different calibers. I mentioned before, the barrel is easily swapped out. On this particular model, you just take this pin out, break it down, pull the cover back, and then you have 2 additional screws that you can change the barrel out pretty instantly and be done with that roughly in 15 minutes at the most. So you can change that to, I believe this is 9mm 40 Smith & Wesson, and also 357 SIG. And it mentions when you buy any of these, I don't know if you can see that well enough. Move my papers out of the way. It will say SIG MPX multi-cal, so that's what it means by that. Like I said, there have been no malfunctions of any kind. And let me just show you some targets to show you how accurate this is. Okay, here's the first target I shot with. This is roughly 100 rounds in this target here. Actually, my first shots, when I first shot this, it was off the board altogether. So I was working on sighting my Romeo 5. So I was trying to get that straight, and I eventually worked my way up, and it was a little over to the left. So I finally got it to the point where I got it centered. And like I said, with even with the Copperhead and this particular one, it is a tack driver. As you see, it just obliterated this. This is roughly my starting area at 10 yards. And here again, it just obliterated the target up top here. And here on my second target here's another 100 round set. I obliterated the target here. This is going back roughly, I believe, 10 to 20 yards, because my range is like at 15, but you can stretch it out a little bit. Now, this shot here, I would have had this all perfect and it would look really cool. But the problem was there was a guy next to me. He was shooting a Smith & Wesson 500, and I got startled as I was pulling the trigger, and that's how I got that one out. Here again, I'm taking some more shots here, and I'm putting this out as far as I can on my range, at my range, because I think it gives you a 15 with a little bit of grace, with a few yards. And this is what I got here. Again, that guy with the he had several firearms. Well, I know one was a Smith & Wesson 500, but there was another one that he had. I don't know if it was a 308 or whatever, but it was definitely a pistol version. And it's, again, that pretty much got me startled. So I'm going to have to get some different earplugs and so forth. But I really like what this, the performance of the SIG Sauer firearms. The thing about the last couple firearms I've been picking up lately have been SIGs, and I know the SIGs are not very popular with a lot of people. Some people don't like their products. I'm not a fan of their striker fire polymer firearms, so I tend to stay with. Now that I'm into the MPX line, I tend to stay with either the MPX or the P series, like the P226s and P220s and 227s, the classic lines. I tend to stay with that, or the 1911s. And I really pretty much been able to pick up these particular firearms as of late. And another thing that sways people against SIG is their pricing. Now, if you go on their website, their pricing seems extremely, extremely high. But I would tell you to go to go to shop around, do your shopping around, and a lot of their retail prices that they put on the website do not even match certain stores. Now, I've seen where, let's say, for example, this particular firearm was rated at $2,000, which is, I wasn't going to get. But when I looked around, it was basically close to half that price. So I had to jump on that because it's based on your pricing in your area. So even with the Copperhead originally its price was $1,800. I found that roughly at $1,200. And what helped me out a little bit is Uncle Sam was good to me on my return, so I've been able to pick up a couple toys here and there. But do your due diligence and look at different places to do your shopping around for firearms, because some of the firearm prices are extremely outrageous. The store I went to recently, there was a guy, he came from Delaware. I live in Pennsylvania. So the guy came from Delaware all the way up here to buy a firearm that he said was extremely cheaper because they price gouge down in Delaware. So he came up here, purchased a firearm, and had it shipped to an FFL. So you do your due diligence, or save up your pennies, do what you got to do to pick up a couple firearms that you like to add to your collection. For now, that's all I have on this firearm. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but I just had to say that. I'm really enjoying this firearm. Like I said, I'm really into the pistol caliber carbine or a submachine gun type firearms as of late. And I'm looking forward to doing more videos on this. But I will be getting out that CZ Scorpion video compared to this because they are very two top contenders. I'm going to tell you what I like about both and what I see is an advantage or disadvantage, if you can say that. Well, that's all I have, folks. Well, happy shooting, #2A.